This is AJ Jacobson with Rivals.com here talking Oregon head coach Mario Cristobal. We haven't started the 2020 season yet, but that doesn't mean you're not working your tail off, doing all sorts of things, getting ready for this season. So, Coach, how are you doing, first of all, and what you've been up to?
Doing great. We certainly, I think our entire staff and the families of our staff did a great job during the pandemic of staying connected with our players and their families, making sure that there was always a consistent line of communication and that we attended to a lot of work that still needs to be done, not only from a self-scouting standpoint, but an opponent scouting standpoint, and really taking a deep dive into recruiting classes of 21, 22, and 23. We feel like we've gained a lot of momentum in all those different facets. And we, now that our guys are coming back to campus and some guys are on campus already with training beginning on Monday the 15th, it's an exciting time. We're doing a very good job of making sure we're doing everything the right way and following protocol so we can keep going in the right direction.
Yeah, having a healthy team is the first step in having a successful team. So no doubt about that, And I'm going to change the order up a little bit because you brought up, because of the pandemic and the NCAA mandated dead period, a lot of people think recruiting has stopped. Well, that's not the case at University of Oregon. In fact, out of the 13 recruits, 8 of them have happened during the NCAA mandated dead period. It's incredible. How's your staff able to maintain such a high level of juice when the rules change so suddenly?
Well, the first thing is it's a shame that our fans and just our people never got an opportunity to come out to the spring game because the spring game is always such a huge event around here. And we were expecting the biggest crowd ever. We were going to honor the Rose Bowl champs and the Pac-12 champions in both football and basketball. It was going to be a massive event. So with that not being there, not being able to capitalize on the momentum of the season and going on the road and visiting all the different schools, we had to find a way to bring Oregon into the households of families and prospects all over the country. And that's what we did. We spent an extraordinary amount of time just being ourselves, being very real, but presenting to our people exactly what we're about, how we do things, giving them a picture of, hey, this is what it's going to be like. And luckily for us, we did have a really good number of prospects and families visit us right before the pandemic hit. So naturally that allowed us to gain a little momentum and then build upon that as it went on. So, but it's been a relentless just approach by our staff. And that part of it, honestly, it comes easy for our staff just because we all recognize we're at an awesome place, awesome administration, just an incredible fan base. And we feel like we're just getting started. We feel like this is the beginning of something that's going to be special for a long, long time. So it's actually been a pretty exciting time for us.
You mentioned not being able to do the spring game, which is obviously terrible for all the Duck fans. And there was another thing that probably is not going to happen or is not going to happen that normally happens during the summer, and that is the Saturday Night Live recruiting event. And, having watched you conduct these the last several years and watching the players that are at these end up committing to the Ducks. But what's amazing is you got to learn these names right away because they start playing as freshmen at Oregon. They start playing as, right. You don't have time to they're going to redshirt and this, that. Oregon, that hasn't been the case. These kids that we've watched at Saturday Night Live commit have played the next year. So how is it that within this culture, when you already have a depth chart that has such high quality veterans on it, are these young kids, I shouldn't say kids, these young men able to come in as true freshmen and play in your program?
Well, without a doubt, we a blueprint that was brought in here a couple of years ago was one that really was going to demand the most of our players, but it was also going to be centered around player development. And I think that's something that now speaks loudly for the University of Oregon. If you look at this past year's draft and you look at the projected drafts for years to come, it's loaded with Oregon football players more than many other schools or most other schools. And the best part about it is that the guys that are coming in, the guys obviously got to put in your time. You got to do what you're supposed to do. But our freshmen are playing, and they're playing a significant amount of snaps. And some are starting and garnering All-American accolades and whatnot. And that's a testament to, number one, their hard work and investment in, their craft. And number two, the coaching staff and working with them in true player development, which is a term that's oftentimes thrown around out there by a lot of places. And, at the end of the day, who is really, getting their guys to advance, to become more polished as football players, to become better technically and fundamentally. And I think what speaks extremely loud right now is the fact that the Oregon, freshmen, newcomers, they are, for the most part, they're playing significant roles and have postured themselves in a position where they're gonna be really prominent for years to come.
Yeah, and I do appreciate you giving credit to staff, and they deserve all of it. But also, just the quality of guys you're bringing in is at such a high level. Duck fans should recognize how stacked these rosters are becoming here at Oregon, because, I mean, you've been your first two classes have been top 10 classes in the nation. This class right now is top 10 in the nation, pending because we're not finalized yet. So this is stacking up quality young men and guys that are fitting into your locker room. And to me, that's probably the most impressive part. It's one thing to bring in a 5-star, which is fantastic, but having a 5-star who's a nice young man like Kayvon Thibodeau, or Penei Sewell wasn't a 5-star, obviously should have been, but you're bringing in these guys and they're fitting in their locker rooms, and you're not having these troubles that some head coaches have to deal with.
Well, it's all about the culture around here. We do things a certain way. That's the best way to put it. We're going to walk and talk and train a certain way so that on Saturdays we can play a certain way. That's the best way to put it. And it's gotten to the point where our guys, and when I say our guys, our players, our staff, they've all developed an intolerance for anyone that will not uphold the standards of our culture. And it's demanding. It's hard, and it should be. I think everyone recognizes that this is a short window in life, 3 to 5 years, quite honestly. And I know that seems like a long time when you first walk in the door. That's a blink of an eye in college football. And so the amount of emphasis placed on their development, on holding them to high standards, on the principles of being committed and having discipline, having pride in everything you do, and toughness. And, toughness everyone thinks is just about a physical play or a tough block or a tackle. And toughness is more about making sure that you can always be early, which is on time for us, that you can always put in time and be alert and be a student of the game on a daily basis to have a positive impact on others. We take a lot of pride in being mentally tough as much as we do physically. So all these things factor into just a really high level of player development. And also our roster is layered appropriately. In other words, we don't ever overstack a position. All that does is it creates a problem, and it doesn't do anybody any good. It certainly doesn't help your football team if guys are sitting behind guys. So we find a way where we can not only create packages where guys can be involved, on Saturdays, but also we layer the roster so that there is depth, but we're not overly deep at any position, and that certain areas that will be subjected to graduation, sometimes early graduation for the NFL, are layered so that there's an instant impact the following year by the guys that replace them. So we're always projecting 2 and 3 and 4 years out. And that's always kind of fun. It's the most imperfect science in the world.
Right.
And it looks like, what's that old movie, A Beautiful Mind? All those charts up on the wall, just trying to figure it out. And by the end of the day, you're like, what did I just do? So it's a lot of fun. But again, we're surrounded by awesome people. And it really starts with that. I mean, our strength and conditioning staff plays a huge role in getting these young guys and getting their bodies layered with that body armor they're going to need to withstand the rigors of what comes with playing Power 5 football. So it's a holistic approach to ultimate player development.
Yeah. No,